Sarah Miller adjusted her simple beige blouse as SHE approached the imposing glass building of Chicago University's mathematics department. At 34, SHE looked out of place among the younger students her into class. Her hands fidgeted with the strap of her worn leather messenger bag. "You can do this," SHE whispered, tucking a strand of light brown hair behind her ear. "I am an administrative assistant at a small insurance firm." Sarah had never set foot inside a prestigious university classroom until today. SHE discovered the opportunity through a pilot program seeking exceptional mathematical minds without formal credentials. Her passion for mathematics had been hidden for years. While coworkers chatted, SHE solved advanced calculus problems, spending nights on forums puzzling through PhD-level questions. "The program is highly selective," Dr. Hayes had told her. "But your solutions to our online challenge were remarkable. We'd like to offer you a chance to audit advanced courses with a possible scholarship." Sarah nearly declined. Wucha was SHE to sit alongside formally educated students. Yet curiosity, the same that had led her to teach herself differential equations, pushed her to say yes. Approaching the building, SHE saw her reflection: simple clothes, minimal makeup, nothing that screamed genius. Just an ordinary woman with an extraordinary mind. SHE took a deep breath and entered. The halls echoed with conversations about theorems and proofs, students clutching expensive textbooks. Room 307, SHE muttered, consulting the small campus map. Advanced Calculus with Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, the legendary mathematician whose textbook sat on her nightstand, deserted and full of notice. Sarah paused outside the lecture hall, her heart pounding. Inside was the world SHE dreamed of, but never thought SHE could enter. Now or never. SHE pushed the door open. The room fell silent. Rows of students in designer clothes turned to stare at the newcomer. SHE slipped into an empty seat near the front, ignoring curious glances. A young man in a cashmere sweater leaned away as if afraid her ordinariness was contagious. "Is the seat taken?" SHE asked. "No," he replied curtly, returning to his tablet. Sarah pulled out a notebook and arranged her sharpened pencils. Students whispered around her. Part of that new program. No formal education. Why is SHE even here? SHE ignored them. This was the first time SHE been judged for not fitting expectations. The lecture hall was impressive, stadium seating facing a wall of chalkboards, portraits of renowned mathematicians above. A young woman with designer glasses whispered to her friend. "Dr. Blackwell will eat her alive. Jishin says SHE leaves crying before class ends." Sarah tightened her fingers around her pencil, but her face remained passive. If they only knew the nights SHE spent working through Blackwell's toughest problems, not out of necessity, but for the beauty of mathematics. The side door opened. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell strode in, blonde hair in a severe bun, tailored black blazer, and crisp white shirt radiating authority. Behind her followed Dr. Patricia Hayes, the kind face who had called Sarah about the program. Dr. Blackwell surveyed the room with searching blue eyes. When her gaze landed on Sarah, a flicker of surprise crossed her expression. "Welcome to Advanced Theoretical Calculus," SHE announced. "For those who belong here, this course will challenge your abilities. For those who don't, the drop period ends Friday." Sarah sat straighter, determined not to be intimidated. 20 minutes into the lecture, Sarah was absorbed. Blackwell's explanations of complex multivariable calculus flowed with clarity. Sarah scribbled notes frantically, occasionally spotting patterns seconds before they were revealed, a thrill each time. The traditional approach to this partial differential equation, Dr. Blackwell explained, requires careful application of the chain rule across multiple variables. Sarah nodded unconsciously. SHE had discovered a shortcut for these equations last year, bypassing several steps without losing accuracy. Something to add, Ms. Miller? Dr. Blackwell's voice cut through her thoughts. No, Dr. Blackwell. I was just following along, Sarah said quietly. Indeed, you find advanced dimensional analysis so intuitive that you not like its elementary arithmetic. A few students snickered. Dr. Hayes frowned. I didn't mean to, Sarah began. Since you seem comfortable, perhaps you'd like to show us how to solve the problem I was about to present. The equation on the board was complex, but solvable. Sarah felt her mouth go dry under the scrutiny of fetid eyes and Dr. Blackwell stare. I thought, as I thought, Dr. Blackwell said dismissively. Some foundations cannot be skipped. Dr. Hayes intervened. Elizabeth, perhaps, no, Patricia, Blackwell said. These students need to see the difference between training and hobbyist enthusiasm. SHE turned to Sarah. Ms. Miller, I insist. Show us your approach. The student beside Sarah whispered. This is going to be a train wreck. Sarah closed her notebook. The equation structure reminded her of problems in Blackwell's textbook. SHE stood, legs steadier than expected, and walked to the board. Dr. Blackwell handed her the chalk, eyes challenging her. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Miller, SHE said. Sarah raised the chalk. The problem was nasty, nested integrals with tricky substitution. SHE recognized it as a variation from Chapter 7 of Blackwell's textbook, but more complex. The room was silent. Dr. Blackwell's presence radiated expectation of failure. Sarah took a deep breath. SHE understood the problem completely, not just the mechanical steps, but the underlying principles. Those solitary nights working by lamplight had given her an intuition that went beyond textbooks. SHE began writing, neat and assured. The first step was conventional, but at the third line SHE pivoted, using a substitution that simplified the nested complexity. Behind her, Dr. Hiss's subtle intake of breath confirmed her choice was audacious. Sarah moved steadily, each line of chalk revealing the most elegant path through the equation. Where the textbook method required 15 steps, hers needed 8. The lecture hall seemed to hold its breath. Even the whispers and shuffling ceased as students watched an ordinary-looking woman dismantle a complex problem with mastery. Dr. Blackwell shot up once, twice, the only outward sign of her growing unease. Sarah paused at a critical juncture, double-checked her mental work, then proceeded to the final transformation. The last few steps flowed naturally, inevitable and perfect. SHE boxed her answer and placed the chalk in the tray. Only thing it SHE turned. Dr. Blackwell's face had lost its smug certainty, replaced by an unreadable mix of surprise and reluctance. SHE stepped forward, scanning the solution for any error, any excuse to reassert control. Dr. Hayes moved closer, eyes widening. This approach bypasses Peterson's method entirely. How did you see this connection? Sarah clasped her hands to stop fidgeting. The equation reminded Mischios from Europe of Carare's optimization framework. He noticed that transforming the variables using a modified hyperbolic substitution simplifies the nested integrals. A student leaned forward, curiosity replacing earlier disdain. But that is not in the textbook. No, Sarah acknowledged quietly. He worked it out while solving similar problems. Dr. Blackwell's lips pressed into a thin line. Not just a correct solution, but an elegant one that improved on standard methods. The classroom remained still. The power dynamic shifted. An interesting approach, Dr. Blackwell finally said, her voice tight with forced neutrality. Though unconventional methods can cause errors in more complex cases, this is correct. Sara didn't need more. The equation was solved, verified by Dr. Hisses approving nod. May returned to Messiah, as he asked politely. Dr. Blackwell gestured carefully, already turning back to the board, desperate to regain control. Yet something had changed, and everyone knew it. Back at her desk, as he noticed the student who had leaned away earlier now made room for her. A small gesture, symbolic of the larger transformation. 30 minutes later, Dr. Blackwell announced a new problem, more complex than the first, a multidimensional integral with a degenerate boundary condition. As he subtly suggested Sara demonstrate her technique again, a test of skill under pressure. Sara felt dozens of eyes on her, but the attention had changed. Curiosity and anticipation replaced skepticism. The student beside her whispered, "Good luck." As he rose to the board, aware of Dr. Blackwell's pointed glance at the clock. 2 minutes left. Sara set up the standard approach but paused, sensing a hidden symmetry. The apparent path would lead to a dead end. As he rewrote the problem using a different coordinate system that revealed the underlying structure. Several students gasped as they realized what SHE was doing. Working quickly but methodically, Sara transformed the seemingly impossible problem into something manageable. Chalk moved with growing confidence, each step revealing an elegant solution hidden in the deliberately obfuscated equation. As the clock struck the hour, SHE completed the final line, boxed the answer, and turned slightly out of breath. The class stared in stunned silence. Dr. Blackwell examined the solution, yaft-eyed. "Doctor, Hayes breathed. That is brilliant. You recognized the embedded Jacobian transformations." Dr. Blackwell's expression softened slightly. "A creative approach," as he admitted, though the words cost her. Class dismissed. Students buzzed with excitement. Sara returned to her seat, calm despite the tumult. "That was incredible," said the young man who had moved away earlier. "How did you learn to do that without formal training?" Before Sara could answer, another student leaned over. "Could you explain that last substitution? If I had never seen anything like it." Suddenly, Sara was surrounded by students who had ignored her guest an hour earlier. Their faces now reflected genuine interest. Even those who had whispered doubts now watched her with respect. Dr. Blackwell gathered her modules, sharp with barely contained frustration. Dr. Hayes approached Sara with a warm smile. "Ms. Miller, could I speak with you in my office? I think we need to reconsider your position in the program." As students dispersed, Sara walked with Dr. Hayes into a quiet corner. "What happened in there?" Dr. Hayes said warmly. "Your intuition for complex analysis is extraordinary." Sara tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, still processing the shift. "I guessed see patterns," as he said simply. "Numbers make more sense to me shows from Europe than people." A few feet away, Dr. Blackwell emerged, spotting Sara with Dr. Hayes, her lips thinned, but instead of walking away, SHE approached. "Miller," SHE said formally, "your performance was unexpected. Not an apology, but a hint of respect." "Thank you, Dr. Blackwell," Sara replied evenly. "Your second solution utilized a transformation not taught until graduate-level mathematics. Where did you encounter it?" "I derived it myself while working through problems in your third textbook," Sara said steadily. The standard approaches seemed inefficient. Dr. Blackwell's eyebrows rose. For the first time, SHE seemed to see Sara as a mathematician, not an anomaly. "I look forward to your continued participation." SHE nodded carefully and walked away. Dr. Hayes smiled. coming from Elizabeth. That is practically a standing ovation. Students passing benaded at Sarah. On a stopped. There is a study group Thursday in the Mathematics Commons. We could use someone with your insight. Sarah blinked. ELL think about it. By the time SHE left the building, word had spread. Students and professors glanced at her with newfound curiosity. SHE wasn't naive. Some would still doubt her, but something fundamental had shifted. Sarah had demonstrated her abilities under public scrutiny and thrived. Evening sunlight slanted through the tall windows as Sarah pushed open the heavy front doors and stepped outside. The campus had quieted. Most students had gone to dinner or evening activities. SHE paused on the white stone steps, absorbing everything that had happened. That morning, SHE had walked in expecting to be tolerated as an oddity, an administrative assistant pretending to be a mathematician. SHE had braced for dismissal, for confirmation of doubts that haunted her for years. Instead, SHE left with Dr. Hayes' promise of a scholarship recommendation and an invitation to submit her alternative solution methods to the department's research journal. Her phone buzzed with a text from a co-worker. How did the fancy math thing go? Did they speak in tongues? Sarah smiled, unsure how to explain the day. How could SHE describe the feeling of finally being seen, of doubt transforming into respect? It went well, SHE typed. I think I might be making some changes soon. Descending the steps, SHE noticed Dr. Blackwell exiting through a side door toward the faculty parking lot. Their eyes met briefly. No smile, no acknowledgement, but recognition. Not as an intruder or anomaly, but as a fellow mathematician. Sarah continued toward the bus stop, steps lighter than they had been in years. Today hadn't erased barriers or solved all future challenges. But it had proven what SHE had always believed. True ability couldn't be defined by credentials alone. Passion and perseverance could open doors that seemed permanently locked. SHE belonged in the world of complex ideas and elegant proofs. Always had, and now others knew it too. Inside the building, students still whispered about her work. Some nodded in acknowledgement. Others stopped to ask questions. Even those who had doubted her began to see her differently. Dr. Hayes escorted Sarah to her office, speaking warmly about the possibilities ahead. We need to reconsider your status in the program. Your solutions show insight beyond what many formally trained students achieve. Sarah smiled, trying to absorb the magnitude of what had happened. SHE had always pursued mathematics quietly, for the joy of understanding. Now that pursuit had been witnessed, validated, and respected. In the classroom, Dr. Blackwell had regained composure, but the balance of authority had subtly shifted. The students who had doubted Sarah now looked to her as an example, curious to learn from her approach. Her second solution, the transformation not found in textbooks, was already circulating in whispered discussions. Sarah reflected on the she then hours, the nights spent working through problems alone, the careful experiments with substitution methods and multivariable shortcuts. Those private triumphs had prepared her for this moment under scrutiny, where every move mattered. The lessons SHE had taught herself now shone in the public arena, demonstrating that brilliance isn't always granted by formal recognition. It can be cultivated quietly, persistently, and passionately. Walking back through the hallways, Sarah noticed professors taking note of her. Some greeted her by name, others paused to observe. The respect was universal, and SHE no skepticism remained. Academic politics were complex, often unforgiving. Yet today, SHE had claimed a small victory. Her talent had been undeniable in the spotlight. The evening air cooled as SHE exited the building. The campus was quieter now, The chaos of the day replaced the calm. Aschae paused to breathe in the surroundings, the stone steps, the towering glass, the hum of distant conversations. Aschae felt a sense of quiet triumph, a recognition of her own capabilities. Every obstacle Aschae had faced, every moment of self-doubt, had led to this validation. The students Zwykła whispered had seen her solve what they thought impossible. The professors Zwykła watched with critical eyes had witnessed creativity and insight that could not be dismissed. Sarah understood that this was only the beginning. The world of mathematics, once distant, was now hers to navigate. Her mind replayed the equations Aschae had solved, the substitutions that had amazed even Dr. Blackwell. The elegance of the solutions, the clarity in her own understanding, filled her with a rare satisfaction. Aschae was no longer invisible. Aschae had stepped from the shadows of self-study into recognition, a bridge built from curiosity, dedication, and unshakable passion. As Aschae walked toward the bus stop, her bag swinging lightly, Sarah felt a quiet confidence settle over her. The day had proven that intellect, when combined with persistence, could transcend barriers, redefine expectations, and command respect. Aschae had faced scrutiny, intimidation, and doubt, and emerged triumphant. Sarah's story would remain with her, the ordinary woman whose passion for mathematics and relentless dedication overcame every expectation. Aschae had discovered that brilliance is not a privilege of the formally educated. It is the product of curiosity, effort, and the courage to act when opportunity arises. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the campus. Sarah paused once more, looking back at the building that had held both her challenge and her triumph. A soft smile touched her lips. Aschae belonged here. Always had. Always would. The next morning, Sarah returned to the mathematics building with a quiet sense of purpose. Word of her solutions had already spread. Students Aschae had never spoken to offer nods of acknowledgement or shy greetings. The young man Zwykła had first leaned away, now smiled as Aschae passed. Study group Thursday, Aschae asked. Sarah nodded. You'll think about it. In the classroom, Dr. Blackwell's presence remained formidable, yet her interactions with Sarah had subtly shifted. The icy scrutiny was replaced by a restrained curiosity. Sarah took her seat, her notebook open, pencils arranged. Around her, students whispered less, watching with new respect. Dr. Hayes approached after class. Ms. Miller, your insight has changed the way the faculty views your place in the program. I'd like to discuss moving you from auditing to a formal scholarship track. Sarah's fingers tightened around her notebook, but her face remained calm. Aschae had worked silently for years, nurturing a talent hidden from everyone but herself. Now, it had been recognized, validated in a way that no solitary study could achieve. Aschae remembered every late night, every challenge solved alone, the joy of discovering patterns invisible to others. Each equation Aschae had tackled was a step toward this moment. Her second solution, the transformation derived entirely from her own insight, had cemented her presence among the brightest students. Even Dr. Blackwell, whose approval was famously hard-won, had acknowledged her skill, admitting the creativity and elegance of her methods. That acknowledgement, though subtle, was monumental. It confirmed what Sarah had always known: understanding, curiosity, and persistence mattered more than credentials. As Sarah walked through the hallways later that day, students passed with nods and smiles. Some stopped to ask questions, eager to understand her approach. Aschae realized that her presence had shifted the dynamic in the room, inspiring curiosity and respect rather than doubt and exclusion. As hij paused by the large windows of the mathematics commons, looking out at the campus. Each step as hij had taken, from the quiet evenings of self-study to the intense scrutiny of the lecture hall, had led to this moment of recognition. As hij felt an unusual calm, a sense of belonging that had previously seemed impossible. Evening fell, and Sarah stepped outside again, the campus bathed in soft golden light. As hij reflected on the journey, an ordinary woman, underestimated, the appearances and credentials, risen to meet a challenge no one expected her to succeed at. As hij had proven that passion and talent could not be contained by labels or expectations. Her phone buzzed with another message from a colleague. "Ezo, genius, how is life with the math elite?" Sarah smiled, typing back simply, "It went well. Things are changing." Ahead, the path stretched clearly, the barriers no longer insurmountable. Sarah understood that brilliance does not require permission. It needs only recognition, opportunity, and the caring to act. As hij had claimed her place not through conformity, but through dedication, insight, and the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years perfecting her craft in private. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of all her preparation lift, replaced by a profound satisfaction. As hij belonged in this world of complex ideas and elegant proofs. As hij had always belonged. Today, others finally knew it too. In a society that often judged talent by certificates and titles, Sarah's quiet triumph was a reminder that true genius could emerge anywhere, nurtured in the shadows, revealed in the light. Her journey from self-taught enthusiast to recognized mathematician was not defined by validation alone, but by perseverance, intuition, and the refusal to let others dictate her worth. As hij walked toward the bus stop on a final time, the campus quiet, the sun dipping low, Sarah's steps were lighter than ever. The obstacles ahead were real, but so was her ability. As hij had met doubt, intimidation, and expectation head-on, and prevailed. As hij belonged. As hij always had. And now, the world had no choice but to see it too.